Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Awesome Artsy Moms. I'm Ann Walsh, and today I get to sit in my own studio here in Kempville with Stittsville artist Karen Wynne MacKay. She is a fascinating artist who explores all sorts of mediums, from calligraphy to acrylics, mixed media, and encaustic painting, which I am fascinated with. So I am very excited to get started. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you, Anne. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's such a pleasure to meet with you. So your creativity spans so many different art mediums, and
Yes.
I'm just wondering where your artistic journey began.
Believe it or not, it began in kindergarten.
Oh.
Once I learned how to write and how to color and how to put those two together, I feel like that's when the first sort of lightning effect hit. It became so all-encompassing for me to just color in everything I had written. And from there, an artist was born.
Can you take us through your creative exploration? How did you discover each medium and which one's your favorite?
Okay, so it became imperative to me that the only way I could get through this life in high school was to make art. In those days, it was to write. Writing was my first love. I wrote poetry, I wrote songs, I wrote short stories. I wrote things, teenage angst. I wrote about that. So it's safe to say that writing was my first foray into the art world. The next thing, of course, came the calligraphy. And through the calligraphy, I learned so much. I traveled to the United States. I traveled east and west of Ottawa. I became very involved with the Ottawa Calligraphy Society of Ottawa. I had so many wonderful teachers, as well as experienced calligraphers coming from all over Canada and the United States. I presently am employed doing the certificates for the Order of Canada,
Wow.
Order of Police, Order of Military Merit. I do registers for bravery. And it's a pleasure for me to do this work for the Governor General of Canada. But I'm also a professional artist, which the foray of that became watercolor and gouache. Because I work in gouache with calligraphy, I went in to study watercolor painting and gouache painting, which led to this wonderful discovery of encaustic painting, which I absolutely wanted to try and fell in love with. And I found a wonderful instructor. Her name's Susan Ukala out in Dunrobin, and she really gave me the good basics, and I just took off from there and again went to the States to study in that. I then moved on into mixed media acrylic, which I find the acrylic very fascinating right now. I'm working more in acrylic because I find I can add my marks, I can do things a little bit quicker. With encaustic, you've got your heat-based element, you've got your medium, and you're working in layers, and you have to work quickly.
Yes.
In encaustic. So in the acrylic, you're still working quickly, but if you don't like what you've done, you can paint it over.
Right.
You can do that in encaustic as well. I just find I'm having a little more fun with the acrylics right now. And in mixed media, for me, mixed media is more using mixed variations, such as charcoal, ink. There's gouache and watercolor in my paintings. So for me, mixed media is a mixed painting technique. I don't put pictures in my paintings or glue things in. Some mixed media artists do that as well.
Yes.
I don't do that, but I'm having a lot of fun working with this medium at the moment.
I can tell that words are very important to you. Can you share with us your love of words and how they've impacted your work?
Words come to me like that. Sometimes when I hear a new tune on the radio, I will hear the words as well as the music, but I'll hear the words just as loud. I love to write poetry. I love to write lyrics. I like to write short stories. I love to read. I read everything. At the moment, I'm more focused on reading about different arts and different artists. But I just find that words become an inspiration, even walking in the woods. Just they're inspirational for me, and I don't know how to turn them off.
You wrote that you were inspired by music and emotions, and so I'm wondering, is your art therapeutic to you? Would you compare it to an act of self-care?
Interesting question. Trying to make me work hard here.
Yes.
Self-care, self-nourishing. I feel like if I didn't live a creative life, I wouldn't be a happy person. So for me, that's the way I live my life.
It's essential.
Yes.
You like to work around themes. What are some of the themes that have inspired your work?
Oceans, rivers, streams, nature, definitely walking with the trees. You know those moons in the morning, those sky, stars, sense of feelings, emotions, and of course my family. Those are probably the most prominent themes that run through my work.
You shared with me that you used to teach calligraphy to children and that your 6-year-old son was your assistant. Can you tell me a little bit about how becoming a mother has affected your work?
I worked harder and I used my time more efficiently. So I would spend a full day with my children. We used to do arts and crafts and sports and all kinds of things. And then I would work until midnight on my art.
Wow.
So 11 o'clock, between 11 and midnight. Probably four times a week would not be an exaggeration, and I would do that. And I would wake up, instead of being tired, I'd wake up fulfilled. And then I'd be on to another day with my kids. And they also make creativity when they're that young. It's a creative life. So they were doing things and learning things, and seeing it from their point of view opened up a whole new world to me, because I'd never gone down to that view and since I was a child. So the great thing for them is by the time they got into school, they knew how to read and write. So we had a wonderful time. And I felt that it was important for me to do that. So even though you're a tired mom, there are times where you just have to be a little bit more tired to keep working towards your goal. And that's what I did.
Sounds like they had a great childhood.
They did, I think.
Tell me about your mark making workshop.
This is an exciting story. So a few years ago, I was approached by a grade 10 teacher who would have loved to have calligraphy taught in one class. Well, you cannot teach calligraphy in an hour or an hour and a half, unfortunately. So I thought about the project and I came up with mark making and words.
Okay.
So I took balsa wood, square balsa wood, which is shaped like a calligraphy instrument. And I took a piece of paper and we taped it in 4. They wrote a great big word with a great big brush, and then in each section I had a different way of making letters: thin, thick, curvy, bouncy. And then in the very last panel they got to write whichever way they wanted. When we removed the tape, there were quite a few little masterpieces there and a lot of interested high school students. So I thought I'd like to develop this further. So I invited 4 of my girlfriends over, and I promised them a lovely dinner after a day of doing this workshop. I changed it a little bit more, and then I realized it would be fun to try it with artists. But I didn't want artists who did calligraphy or painted full-time. So I invited a friend of mine, a photographer, a glass artist, a young woman who was just starting in painting, and the photographer's wife. Everyone's creative, as we all know. I think everyone is an artist.
Yes.
And I tweaked it a little bit more, and we had wonderful results with that as well. So then I felt ready to take it out on the road, and I started teaching with Holly Dean, who is an artist in Merrickville. And each session that I've taught has been a learning experience, not only for the students, but for myself. And each one has been tweaked differently to make the participants of that particular group more comfortable. You can tell within about an hour of teaching where it's going and where they're going to be more fulfilled and how to change the rhythm of the day. So that's how it came about and where it ended up.
So you design everything specifically to the group that you're with.
Yes.
You have to be very flexible.
I try to be. It's quite an open thing. It's a very individualistic thing because everyone makes their own marks. And it's so fascinating to see what they're going to come up with. And we remove some of the marks and then we make more marks on top. So if I see that someone's sort of frustrated, it's nice to be able to remove and work on top and maybe shorten certain parts of it. It's all adapting to the people that are in the class, and I seem to have fun doing that.
Yeah, it sounds like you're having a good time.
Yes.
You are a professional artist with 25 years experience. What tips would you have for women who want to become professional artists?
Firstly, I would say believe in yourself. Secondly, I would say take as many courses as you can. Open up your whole artistic repertoire. Don't put pressure on yourself. Enjoy the process. 3, I would suggest joining a society of like-minded people and being open to different kinds of art forms. Doors will open for you that you couldn't imagine if you weren't part of a society. If there is no society in your area, start one. You'd be amazed how many people you meet in that milieu. The other thing I would suggest would be to teach. That's another thing that if you feel that you can share and share well, do that. It's great for, the more teachers we have, the better. And never forget to volunteer. Volunteering is very important in this career. It helps other beginning artists to get a little step up. It helps teachers. It helps everyone. And it will keep art alive and keep creativity blossoming.
I happen to know you have just returned from a residency in Toronto. How does that experience nurture you as an artist?
It was fabulous. Just taking the ferry over to the island and having no responsibilities. The only responsibility I had was to my art, and it was just so interesting to have that whole week to myself. I was riding a bike that was taped up. We were riding our bikes in the afternoons at lunchtime. We were walking the beach in the morning. And I was so pleased to have such a great big studio, although it's very hard to bring great big canvases over there due to the fact that it's the ferry and no cars are allowed on the island. So next time I would probably bring a roll of canvas. But this week was all focused on the art, exercise, eating well. We just brought healthy foods. We had a wonderful time, and I actually was able to complete a series of which I'm very happy about. 6 12 by 12 pieces.
Nice.
Yes.
I saw on your website that you have a collaboration coming up with a glass artist in July. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Certainly. I'm going to be teaching with Jennifer Kelly of Current Works of Glass in her studio in Mississippi Mills. So the first 2 hours are going to be mark making. So this will be the shortest time I've ever taught mark making. So of course I've tweaked it a little bit. And then we're going to take the art from the mark making and we're going to reproduce it in glass. So I'm super excited about it. Our workshop is full already, but I'm sure it will be a wonderful time.
That sounds so cool.
Yeah.
Karen, where can people go to see and purchase your art?
They can go to Stonewall Wild's Art Gallery on Bank Street in Ottawa. I also show in different areas with the West Carleton Art Society. We have shows at the Plant Bath Community Center. We have a new show at the new store called Moonstones and Carp. We have a show at the Juke Joint Soul Cafe. Probably best to get in touch with me by email or Stonewall Wilds. And of course, people are always welcome to come to my home.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this interview.